We're here. Hello, hello. We made it.
Hello. Hi, Dave. Hi, Zero. How you doing?
Hi. Good.
Yeah, you guys faring well in this COVID world we're living in?
It's a strange time, isn't it?
Whew, you can say that again. You guys
It's-
self-isolating or?
Yeah, we're in our little bubble here. You know, he's got a family bubble, and I'm sort of part of that.
And where are you in? Oakville, Toronto?
In Burlington, actually. That's my house. We have a rehearsal studio. And this is all hanging on the every wall is covered with stuff. We've been around since like water, our band, as you know.
Well, of
And
course.
we have quite a collection of things.
You know, I mean, I started back in radio in, I don't want to say too far back to count, but about 84, I guess it was. And I've been playing your music ever since. It's really been the soundtrack of my life, as it has for so many fans around the world.
Well, we never would have ever envisioned it having legs like it does, right? I mean, it's just, and thank God, you know, for people like you and Canadian Radio Chorus and Stingray and all these other ones, they just keep playing the segue. It's all over, and people call us all the time. Up in Muskoka, they're hearing it, and in the summer on the dock, and you know, it's of course out west, out east, and Edmonton, of course, and it's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, it's got legs, that's for sure. This beat goes on, Switch into Glide, of course, is what we're talking about off your debut album from 1980, The Kings Are Here. And people just love that song. And can you take me through the anatomy of that song? Like, Dave, I think it was you that wrote the guitar parts for it.
Right. And yeah, I was just tuning a guitar when we were playing at a gig in Grimsby, Ontario. And I was, you know, down, you know, tuning it up, and then I had that lick, and I thought, you know, I played it over a few times. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, and Sonny just said, "What's that?"
And said,
Oh.
Sonny said, "What is that?" And I don't know. You know, I was just started tuning my guitar, and then after the show, I remembered that it was so simple, which is great. Sometimes dumb is brilliant, obviously, as you know. And I went home and could still remember it easily, and I worked up the music and presented it to Zero here, who had a great idea for lyrics.
Well, yeah, when I was thinking of, there hadn't been a name song in a while. Like, you know, I remember when I was a kid hearing the Name Game song, you know, Bana, Bana, Bobana, Banana, Bana, right? And so, yeah, and there's actually somebody gave me there's a dirty one you can do. It's just we're not,
so we can take
we're not going to go down that one.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Is there a real Donna? Is there a real Trudy?
Well, this is it.
No, it just occurred, like, let's just have a name song again. And then Donna and, hey, Judy, get Trudy.
Judy.
I thought, well, that's all right.
That's
and then,
great.
and then Moody, it just seemed, well, that's good. I wrote that down. And then let's go for the second part. And then, hey, Donna, you still, well, wanna, okay. And then,
yeah, that's cool.
And then this thing with Tirana, I thought, no way that's going to fly. And then, you know, it's one of the strongest hooks in the song, right? Of course, and, you know, and the Toronto Star called it the almost
number one official song of Toronto.
The almost official song of Toronto, right?
Because as you know, you lived in Toronto many years, Toronto.
Yeah,
Only one T in Toronto.
Yeah, nobody ever says Toronto.
I know, right? Hey, speaking of which, you guys thinking the Raptors are going to do it tonight?
Well, it's a real nail biter, isn't it? I mean,
I
they got slaughtered two games ago. I mean, that was the
dogfight.
wild.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, okay. They probably, you know, who knows, the Cinderella story.
Yeah, kind of along the same lines as yours. So take me back now to the origins of the band itself. Like, I know, Zero, you were out in Vancouver, Sonny was there. You decided to get together, write some songs. How did you hook up with Mr. Diamond?
Well, I always knew that.
Yeah, we all knew each other from years back in public school and high school.
Yeah.
Before bands, so this is way back.
And I knew that I wanted to try to see if I could maybe write songs, and so, but I knew I would never be able to do it on my own. I always thought I could be a collaborator and help finish a song.
Right.
And so, and of course, that was the time when, you know, reading about Bernie Taupin and Elton John, and the one guy wrote the words and the one guy wrote the music, I thought, and then when you research it, there's a lot of people who do it like that with Rodgers and Hammerstein and Rodgers and Hart and all these different people that I've studied over the years. And then, so we started working on that and with Sonny, and he was more of an Elton John type of songwriter, whereas he wanted to have the lyrics presented to him first. And so I tried doing that. I wasn't ever that good at that. And then, so we did that, and then we did some demos, and then I said, you know, we thought we should have a band. And so I said, I know these two guys that I went to high school with, Max and Dave. And growing up in Oakville, Max was always the best drummer in Oakville, and Dave was the best singer and most talented guy by far in Oakville. And I was a little younger than these guys, so I saw them, and I saw all the local bands, and I thought, you know, I was able to say, that guy's the best drummer, and that guy's the best singer in town. So we came back and approached these two guys and said, you want to come in the studio with us? We'll pay for it. We'll do a demo too. And Dave had a couple songs, and we had a couple of our songs. And once we were in there, we realized there was something really magical going on. And then we decided to just keep going with it. And then it turned out that Dave was an incredible songwriter too. And we started collaborating, and that's how it happened.
And then you started playing the bar circuit in Southern Ontario in particular.
We played almost every bar you can think of. And at we played schools, we played everywhere.
Yeah, it was, you know, the high schools that was the plum gigs to get, right? Because you're playing in a high school instead of some dive bar, which is, you know, we talk about the, you know, some of the places that there'd be a strip joint during the day and then a bar at night, right?
Yeah.
So you'd stay in these sleazy hotels with the strippers, and
like all the small towns along, you know, along the north shore of Lake Ontario or Lake Erie, all, you know, all the little, you know, Coburg and all those. I don't want to mention.
And we had one of the places up north. I remember the fire escape was a rope that was tied around the radiator, and so you'd have to throw it out the window and climb down it.
And good luck.
Living the dream, huh?
That's right. But you know what? You got good playing those places, right?
And we played 6 nights. So it was 6 nights a week and a matinee on Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
So you really got to sharpen your licks and again we would never try. We try not to stay overnight in those places because you never know what you're going to get.
Right.
And so if it was a couple-hour trip a night back and forth, if we would come home and sleep and get up enough time to get back to the gig, so we didn't have to stay in those rooms as much as possible.
We would commute to London or Peterborough or do one-nighters in Windsor and come back, or Ottawa, drive there and come back, you know, and to save money on getting a decent hotel room as well. And, you know.
And you guys at this time, you were still called Whistle Kings, right?
Well, we started out as Whistle King, and then we actually, there was a homegrown contest on on Chum FM. It was the first one they ever had in Toronto.
In the late 70s.
And we went in as Whistle King with one of Dave's songs called Turn My Face to the Wall, which evolved into Don't Let Me Know on our album.
Yeah.
And we won that over 600 entries. And we, you know, back then, you know, you were around in the 80s, so you remember that those talent contests developed into recording contracts, and they give you free instruments and studio time and money and everything else. Yeah. We got a free lunch, and that's what we got out of it. That's, you know,
right. And way to go, boys.
Yeah.
Bologna sandwich.
Pretty much. And no record company was interested, you know, in us at all.
But the one thing that did happen is we met Jack Richardson.
I was going to say that all changed when you went into Nimbus 9 and met Jack.
Well, Jack was one of the judges of this contest. Him and Larry Wilson, I think he was the main DJ at Chum.
Right.
There was a few major that thought what we had was something to think about, right? Something to work on.
Jack Richardson being one of Canada's preeminent producers.
Yeah.
The Producer of the Year award at the Junos is now named after Jack Richardson.
That's right.
So we were lucky enough to meet him and him have to start working with us.
Yeah, and so when we were in this sort of demo studio that they had set up at the Canadian National Exhibition Grounds, it was he was trying to direct us in the studio. And, you know, he's a real meticulous guy who had perfect time. And of course, our drummer and we didn't have perfect time. And we didn't play with a metronome back then or anything like that. So he's going, you guys are speeding up and slowing down all the time. And he came out in the studio with a pencil and tried to,
try to do that. And one, and
we still kept speeding up. And he threw up his hands and said, you guys forget it.
So, and then how did Bob Ezrin come into the picture?
Well, we were playing around and we saved up some money and we decided to try to make our own indie album.
Yeah.
And
so
we
started writing a lot more shorter pop type songs, because that's what won that contest for us. Yeah. People started calling us the Kings instead of Whistle King.
Yeah.
And then
so then we managed to work out a deal in off hours at the studio in Toronto,
Nimbus, yeah.
Because a lot of these places it was a lot of money, but if you could get in at night or overnight or whatever, and of course we didn't care about what time it was.
Right.
And so we got in there on off hours for a few days and we're working on this thing. And then Bob came back and was in Toronto. He was in England for a couple of years working with Pink Floyd, and then
doing the Wall,
and he just dropped.
You snare the guy who just came back from working on Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Well, he was visiting his, the people that ran the studio. They were all, he recorded lots of records there, and
he's from Toronto originally, so he worked there with Jack for many years.
So he was just visiting, and our manager got to talk to him and kind of hyped him up on us a bit and gave him a cassette to take home, and he played it for his kids, and they loved it. And we just found out this year that he was, from some other guys we know in bands, that he was sort of auditioning other bands in Toronto. But thank goodness he decided on us. Of course, we think we were way better than them anyway. So anyway, so we had a great singer and we had some good songs, and he just thought there was something there. So he said, let me try. We worked out an arrangement for him to mix a couple songs, and then he said, you guys are good, but you don't know what you're doing. But the song "Switching to Glide" is great. So let me see if I can maybe get you a record deal. And he went and got us a major U.S. deal with Elektra Records in Los Angeles.
Incredible.
Cinderella Story.
Yeah.
Stories, yeah.
So here we are. It's the 40th anniversary of that record. The Kings Are Here came out in 1980. So now you jump on the Comet, right? You start touring with some of the artists, Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton. Tell me about that ride.
Well, we opened up for a few different artists, and sometimes, there'd be a better fit than other times. And so the first time we played in Denver with Jeff Beck, it was, we weren't on the bill. They just announced us late, and they were booing us throughout the whole arena. It was in the hockey rink there.
Yeah, because we were sort of a new wave pop rocky type band, and we were playing in Colorado in front of these long-haired, torn blue jean guys, mostly guys. They didn't want to see us at all.
And other people, other people we played with, with Robert Palmer one time, and of course that's not a very good fit. Or Peter Noon from Herman's Hermits, that wasn't necessarily a good fit. Or Joan Jett, I think she opened for us when we played at in New Haven at. I forget the name of the place there, famous place in New Haven, but
other shows it was a great fit. Like we played with the Beach Boys twice, and it was great. It was unbelievable. It was the people just sort of everybody had a wonderful time. It was great.
And did all the rock and roll boxes get checked? You get beat up, you get underpaid, you get ripped off?
Oh, absolutely, every one of those things, and ripped off by management and. Unscrupulous business dealings, all of that, yeah.
Well, I understand that you don't own the publishing to those first two records, to The Kings Are Here and Amazon Beach. Let me guess, Jack owned the publishing.
Well, no, that's no. At that time, when we signed with Elektra, we did our. What happened was a guy came and banged on our door, and he said, you're doing something in the States, and we were going, we didn't know that we were climbing the charts as well as we were. And so his name was Randy Phillips, and he went on to manage Prince and Rod Stewart and all sorts of people, became a huge executive in the music business. He said, I think I can get you some money. And so he got us a publishing deal. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago that we started on the quest to get our publishing back. And it took over 3 years and cost us a lot of money, but we do own our publishing.
Oh,
Yeah, we brought it back.
Yeah, so we did get it back. And even though the lawyers all said, look, nobody can do this, you can't do it. But fortunately, we had a great lawyer in LA. And like I said, it took 3 years. And a while ago, I was looking at the emails. I had over 300 emails to this guy, our lawyer. and that's what it took. And like he just said, it cost us a lot of money because they give you these advances, which they know you're never going to recoup. And then that's sort of what we had to do to get we had to borrow a bunch of money to pay them off again, but and it's worked out. We paid it off and more since because we make all the money now. So.
Oh, so good.
Although we're still not, we're Canadian musicians still, so
Yeah.
we're not driving around in Ferraris or anything like that.
Not at all.
Still got a tour.
Yeah. But we have a story. We played in Edmonton. Remember the little crippled fellow that was left behind after a gig?
Yeah.
Like I forget the name of the there was a big major hotel in Edmonton.
On Whites on Whites or something?
Are you thinking? You're not thinking of the big CP hotel, the Fort?
No.
It was right downtown
anyway,
somewhere.
it was on.
But it just came to me. We were playing. It was a sold out show and everything. Big party afterwards in the party room, the hotel somewhere, and everybody. It got to be late at night. It was in the winter time, and everybody's getting ready to go to bed and everything. And there was this a young kid, a guy, Kings fan, or in his early 20s, a crippled fella in a wheelchair, got left behind.
Oh no!
And we didn't know who he was. We didn't know where he came from or who he had come with.
Yeah.
And this is like at about 3 o'clock in the morning after this gig.
And he had to go to the bathroom.
He had to go to the bathroom.
So we had to help him go to the bathroom.
We had to take him in. So we looked after him, and in the end of it, and we had a big stretch van that we were traveling in. In the end of it, we did find somebody who knew where this kid came from.
Oh, good.
And so we ended up driving around in Edmonton in the middle of the night with this young kid who was a super big Kings fan, and we got him home, and then we got back to the hotel. I think the sun was coming up by the time we finished. I just remembered that just now, talking about you were in Edmonton.
Was it winter time?
It was winter. I don't know if there's a lot of snow. It was cold. I remember it being cold.
But, just one of the things that happens out there,
Yeah, speaking of what happens on the road, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of one of the things that happened is there was Dick Clark's American Bandstand. Was it everything you thought it was going to be? Was it weird? Was it wonderful?
Well, they shoot it at the ABC studio in Hollywood, and it's this big thing with fences around it and all that, and all the big, satellites and all this. And you walk into this big studio, and huge soundstage with the curtains dividing it and all that. And Kool and the gang were in there doing their segment for the show the week before because he did a few shows at once.
Oh, and Robert just passed away. Just yesterday, I saw the obit announcement for a singer from Kool and the Gang.
Oh, was that right?
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gapping on his name right now. Robert Callis. I want to say Alexander. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
But because Dick Clark he was at the time he was doing that $1 Million Pyramid show in New York, and in LA he was still doing the American Bandstand. So he would do 4 or 5 shows, like a month's worth of shows in one day. So the audience would all the kids would come dressed in with 5 sets of clothing, so they could look like a different week. So we got to meet many of the major performers backstage. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
And Dick was just a super nice guy, very professional. And in the makeup room, he was asking us questions just about general things.
Yeah.
And we were just casually relaxed and answering those questions. And those are the questions that he used in the interview segment on the show between songs, because you get a song and then a little interview and then you do another song. And he was smart enough to know that we would be relaxed because we already answered the questions. And so it was very professional.
What a
So I
pro.
guess he does that with everybody. He knows when a couple of the guys are in there getting their makeup done, he'll just come in, and you're looking in the big mirrors like at a hair salon type of thing. There's Dick Clark there and Zero and I here going, holy,
Yeah, it was big time.
And then I'm sure he does that with every artist. He probably just comes in and gets touched up before the next shoot or whatever. And then he does his pre-interview and knows what questions to ask. And it just happens flawlessly.
And we worked out an arrangement to put a minute of the Dick Clark performance in the video that we made for Switching to Glide. And that was all they let us use. And so we have the whole performance because they sent us a copy to edit from. But they have never released our performance on American Bandstand into the world on YouTube or anywhere else. But earlier this year, or late last year, they did put up the interview section of the little thing. It's a couple minutes long where he comes and says, okay, introduce the guys in the band and all this.
In between the two songs we play.
And there's other ones there. You can find Loverboy when they did it, and you can find Blondie when they did it, and all these other bands. Just the interview section, not the performances.
Oh, okay.
And and Honeymoon Suite did it as well from Canada. And it's so funny because everybody's green and young and like deer in the headlights, and here's Dick Clark. Say something, that.
Yeah. That's how you go.
Even the big stars, Debbie Harry or, the guys in Loverboy, everybody was just young and starting out. So it's really cool.
Wow. And then, so 1980, then you come back to Toronto for the Heat Wave Festival, which is what we're celebrating this year with the 40th anniversary a couple of weeks ago, right? August 23rd.
Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah.
23rd. So there you are with Elvis Costello, the Talking
Heat Wave
Heads.
poster right there.
There it is.
There it is.
And that has become infamous, especially in Southern Ontario, because there was 50,000 people there. You guys and Teenage Head and all these international artists, and yet the only footage was of Teenage Head and you guys. Why didn't anybody else allow the Heat Wave to get filmed?
Who knows? It's such a shame, really, because they were all at their peak. That was the first performance with Talking Heads. They brought out this big band. They had like 15 musicians on stage, and I think Adrian Ballou playing guitar. And the Pretenders were great. They were all still alive then, because you know how most of them have passed.
Yeah.
And
the B-52s were great, but they still had the big beehive hairdos, and it was
a beautiful summer day, hot and nice, and it's
Elvis Costello was great.
It was, and when they said to us, would you let us, and we're going, yeah, sure, come on. And I guess these other people were too cool, and maybe they just thought it was too Mickey Mouse or something, but it would have been a new wave Woodstock, if you want to call it that, and it would have, opened the doors and for something for posterity, because the bands were all so great at that time. They're all young, good looking, and they played great that day. So it's terrible.
First few records for everybody, that was 1980. I guess it was pre-video, right? It was pre-music and pre-MTV. So I don't think maybe they had they could conceive of what that video could and would have become.
Right, and I would have been a great document to have to this day, and that's why we're just putting our thing out, because it's such a great record of us as we were at the time, and it took a lot of effort to get it to where it is right now. But
the film footage was lost for many years, and then Z dug it. Like the Bloodhound here dug up the film footage and the audio, the tape, and you got to remember, it's a film, it's a silent movie that you have to marry the music and up to, which is not an easy thing to do, and there's no, clappers.
Yeah, they had no slates where they say what song it is or anything like that. It was all haphazard on the stage with the film crew. Wow. And they would, they only had small 16 millimeter cameras with the mags, they're 400 feet, that would go about 11 minutes. So they would shoot for a few minutes and then stop, and then it was all a mess. And so
the editing
right there is one of the film cans that we had. That's one of those 16 millimeter. We have half a dozen of them back there, full of these little film reels.
That's all the original film from this.
So we actually found the name of the production company because they would do documentaries and commercials and all sorts of stuff. And they said, you know, this is 12 or 15 years after Heat Wave. And the guy said, you know, we were cleaning out our warehouse last week. We had a dumpster outside. And I went along the shelf, the Heat Wave, okay, we'll keep that. And it was literally a week that it almost went in the dumpster the week before. And he said, okay, we're not going to use this stuff. You can have it. So he gave us all this footage for free with, you know, and all the rights to it and everything else.
Amazing.
And we didn't really realize till later that we have all the Teenage Head footage in there too.
Oh.
And so, and then we found Doug McClement, who ran Comfort Sound, and he does Livewire here in Toronto. He does all the Juno Award recordings for the sound and the Olympics. He's a really great guy, and he has a great career. He did the recording, and actually Blair Packham from the Jitters was his assistant at that time, and he took some photos on stage at Heat Wave and everything. But so we were lucky enough to get the sound there, and then we did a mix, and then we remastered it for the Heat Wave movie that we're just putting out. And then, of course, this fall, sometime coming up, Teenage Head are putting out a documentary. This guy, Doug Aerosmith, made this movie about them, and it's going to be on TVO later this year, I think. And we were happy to donate any footage that they wanted to use, you know, from the Heat Wave show. So that I think they're using 4 or 5 minutes of it in their movie, you know, to show because that was the peak of their gigs that they ever got. And soon after that, they had a big accident, and Gord almost got killed, the guitar player. And that kind of, they had a bunch of shows booked in the States that they weren't able to go play, and that kind of stalled their career. And so, you know, and then Frank, of course, died about 10 years ago. And you know, and we knew those guys and played with them many times and hung out with them, you know, and that. And so we're happy to give them any kind of help we can do. And I've seen some of their movie, and it's really great, you know, so it's a good thing.
Right. Well, your movie, the Kings live at the Heat Wave Festival, celebrating the 40th anniversary of that, the 40th anniversary of your debut record, and that beloved song, This Beat Goes On, Switch Into Glide. You guys must be so proud of that song, and so proud looking back on the 40 plus years. Congratulations on just.
Well, thanks. And it's been a real, you know, the things people say about it, you know, the comments we get every day from the video and all this other stuff. I mean, they love it so much. I mean, people say it's the greatest song ever. I mean, it's like, you know, it's pretty good, but it's not Stairway to Heaven, but, you know.
Flattering, really. And every Donna and Judy and Trudy thinks it's the song's written about them. Yeah, and that's the fact, isn't it?
No, there really was no Judy or Trudy. It was just rhyming in the song.
And actually, my male girl's name is Trudy. And she said she said that's her song. And I go, oh yeah, well now you're my male girl too. Well, that is your song.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys, and I wish you all the best going forward. You can see all of those videos and live at Heat Wave, the anatomy of a one-hit wonder. That was your movie back in 2009.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that too, just watched it myself.
Well, thanks. We just wanted to tell our own little story about how it happened to come along from nothing to being, you know, getting a major US record deal and having a hit song, and with all that went along with it. And people, it's funny because, you know, the internet has come along with YouTube and all that. And we had some DVDs printed up that we were selling, and we maybe, you know, put a few hundred of them out there. And then a year and a half ago, I think we put it up on YouTube on our channel, The Kings Are Here. And it's had over 40,000 views now, you know, so it's just, you can reach so many more people, and people don't really want to pay for stuff anyway, which is fine. You know, it's like, you know, it'll all trickle around, and, you know, you're keeping the thing out there and alive. And that's more important than trying to just niggle some money out of somebody for a DVD or whatever, you know.
Brand awareness, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we try to keep coming up with content. We're in the studio now working on we just listened to some mixes of some stuff we're working on right now, and that's going to be coming out soon. We're hopefully to have a new album for next spring,
Next spring.
yeah.
So we'll see what happens. We'll have to get together again. And
Yeah.
if the clubs open up or any of the fall fairs happen in Edmonton, we'll be sure to come and see you.
Absolutely. It would be a pleasure to meet you both in person, and Max and the rest of the band. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for chatting with me, guys. It's been awesome.
Well, thank you for having us, Shirley. Thank you.
Okay. All the best going forward.
Okay, goodbye.
Cheers. Talk soon. Bye.